Chicago. Hold on to something, because in the final, chaotic, jaw-dropping hours before Monday's deadline, the Chicago Cubs front office didn't just make one move. They didn't make two moves. They went on an absolute spending spree, working the phones so hard that by the time the clock hit 5 o'clock, this roster looked almost unrecognizable from the one that took the field just days ago. 5 new players. 5. All arriving in a span of about 48 hours in a flurry of trades that caught even the most plugged-in insiders off guard. A big-name all-star starter, a controllable young left-hander, a hard-throwing reliever who instantly becomes a bullpen weapon, an outfielder with real playoff pedigree, and a bullpen arm plucked straight out of Anaheim in a deal absolutely nobody saw coming. By the time you finish this video, you are going to know every single name, every single detail, and exactly why Cubs fans have every reason to be fired up walking into August. Now, before we break all of it down, if you are new to this channel, welcome in. And I need to say this clearly, because it actually matters. If you are a die-hard Cubs fan, I mean the real kind, the kind who's up at midnight refreshing trade rumors, the kind who still remembers exactly where you were in 2016, then this channel is being built for you. Not for casual scrollers, for you. So if that's you, do not just watch and leave. Hit that subscribe button right now, because a channel like this only grows when real fans, real diehards, decide to show up for it and support it from the very beginning. This is how we build something real together, video by video. So take 2 seconds, tap subscribe, and let's get into everything that just happened. All right, let's rewind, because context matters here. Just days ago, one of the best pitchers on the planet, a 2-time reigning Cy Young winner, got traded out of Detroit and landed with the Los Angeles Dodgers in a deal that sent shockwaves across the entire league. That single trade lit a fire under every single front office still working the phones, including Chicago's. Suddenly, the price of pitching wasn't just going up, it was skyrocketing. And with a Cubs pitching staff that had already absorbed 30 different injured list stints this season, 26 of them pitchers alone, President of Baseball Operations Jed Hoyer knew he could not afford to sit back and wait. So he didn't. He went to work, and by the time the deadline hit, he had completely reshaped this roster. Let's start with the headliner. In a deal with the Toronto Blue Jays, the Cubs landed veteran all-star right-hander Kevin Gausman. 35 years old, 23 starts already logged this season, and just 1 year removed from pitching on a World Series stage. Now, look, his surface numbers this year aren't eye-popping. His ERA has ticked up a bit, but dig into the advanced metrics, and the picture is a lot more encouraging. His command is still elite. His splitter, one of the nastiest pitches in all of baseball, is still generating a whiff rate creeping up toward 40%. This is a pitcher the Cubs believe they can unlock, a true difference maker slotting straight into that rotation for the stretch run. But here's the part that shows you Jed Hoyer wasn't done, not even close. In a separate move, the Cubs also added left-hander Braxton Garrett, and this name is different from the rest, because this isn't a 2-month rental. Garrett is under club control all the way through the 2028 season. Yes, he's coming off a major elbow surgery that wiped out his entire 2025 season, but this is a former first-round pick, the 7th overall selection in his draft class, and a pitcher this front office clearly views as part of the long-term future, not just a quick fix for October. Then came the bullpen. And honestly, this might be the move that Cubs fans end up talking about the most. In a trade with the New York Mets, Chicago landed hard-throwing right-hander Clay Holmes, along with outfielder Tyrone Taylor. Holmes hasn't pitched in the big leagues since mid-May, when a line drive comebacker fractured his leg, but he is fully healthy and ready to go, coming straight off the 60-day injured list. And when he's right, this guy is nasty. He sits in the 95th percentile in ground ball rate in all of baseball, armed with a devastating sinker he throws nearly half the time. Pair him with Gausman, with Shota Imanaga, with Matt Boyd, and this pitching staff suddenly looks completely transformed from where it stood just 1 week ago. And Tyrone Taylor doesn't get lost in the shuffle either. He brings real outfield depth, real defensive versatility, and playoff experience the Cubs can lean on down the stretch. And then, just when you thought the dust was settling, Chicago pulled off one more surprise. There had been chatter, real chatter, that the Cubs were closing in on a deal for a young Angels left-hander everyone was buzzing about. That deal? It fell apart. It turned out to be false. But instead of walking away empty-handed from Anaheim, the front office pivoted and completed a different trade with the Angels, landing hard-throwing reliever Ryan Zafirjan. And based on what insiders are saying, This might quietly be the single biggest bullpen upgrade of this entire deadline for Chicago. A power arm added to a relief corps that desperately needed one more weapon for the late innings. So let's add it all up. 5 new players: Kevin Gausman, Braxton Garrett, Clay Holmes, Tyrone Taylor, Ryan Zeferjohn. 5 names that did not wear a Cubs uniform 1 week ago, and 5 names that are about to be right in the middle of this team's push toward October. Now, nothing in this league comes for free, and Cubs fans deserve to know exactly what left the building too. To get Gausman, Chicago sent outfielder Brett Bateman and infielder Ty Southesine to Toronto. To land Holmes and Taylor, the return going back to the Mets was infielder Jefferson Rojas. And in that late pivot to acquire Zeferjohn from the Angels, the Cubs sent back catcher and DH Moises Ballesteros, along with right-hander Mason McGuire. Real, legitimate pieces heading out. But every single insider covering this deadline agrees on one thing. Chicago protected the core of its farm system while still getting real, immediate, big league help. That is exactly the kind of deadline a front office dreams about. So what does this all mean walking into the stretch run? Think about the rotation now. Gausman, Amanaga, Boyd. Holmes ready to slide into high-leverage bullpen innings. Garrett developing as a long-term piece. This pitching staff, which had been absolutely gutted by injuries for months, suddenly has actual depth again. Actual weapons the manager can turn to in big moments. And that matters enormously, because remember, this team is sitting at 62-47, holding the top wildcard spot in the National League, just 5.5 games back of a hot Milwaukee team. A great record can only carry you so far in October if your pitching staff is running on fumes. As of this deadline, it isn't anymore. I'll be honest with you. When this deadline started, plenty of fans, myself included, were bracing for a quiet, cautious approach. Instead, Jed Hoyer went out and completely reshaped this roster in under 48 hours. This wasn't a front office playing it safe. This was a front office that looked at a wide-open National League, looked at a roster that's already proven it can win, and decided to go all in on right now. So here's what I want to hear from you, right in the comments. Out of these 5 new additions, Gausman, Garrett, Holmes, Taylor, or Zeferjohn, who do you think ends up making the single biggest impact for this team down the stretch? And like I always ask, tell me how long you've been riding with this team and where in the world you're watching from tonight. I genuinely want to know exactly how far this Cubs fan base reaches, and I read every single comment. And one more time, because it really does matter. If you consider yourself a true diehard, if this team means something to you, this is exactly the moment to show it. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and share this with another Cubs fan who needs to see this deadline recap tonight. This channel grows because real fans, real diehards like you, choose to support it early. That's it. That's the whole ask. Be part of it from day one. Chicago, this roster just got a whole lot more dangerous heading into the stretch run. I'll be right here with every single update as these new faces make their Cubs debut. Stay locked in. Go Cubs go.